What a pleasure it is, he goes, to introduce into TGC Towers, aka your apartment, the world's greatest living cricket writer and also top order batsman at the Yarras, one half of the excellent Cricket Etc. podcast, and the guy who wore the Four Seasons Total Landscaping t-shirt on TV, which would have wound up heaps of people.
That's where I recognise him.
Heaps of people on Channel 7, which was hilarious.
Yeah.
But probably the main one is the world's greatest cricket writer, Gideon Haigh. Welcome.
Nice to be here, gentlemen. It's a zhuzhy location for a podcast with such an anti-establishment bent.
Well,
when you afford it.
When Higgins
doing
said...
much better than we are on cricket.
When Higgins said, I'm moving to Melbourne, where should I come? I just thought, when I just looked at Higgins, he just looked it up and down, I thought, it's Chapel Street for you, brother.
Fucking hell, that's definitely not a good assessment of me as a human being.
I am astonished that I haven't roped you in for the Yarras, given your proximity to Como Park.
I've been seeing the phone calls, a lot of screen calls.
Gideon, well, let's start with the Yarras. Like, it is a privilege for us to have you here. I know you've been on the show before, but here in person. I mean, one thing you always said off-air to us was, you should continue playing cricket because it's a muse for what you write and you should stay connected to the game.
Yeah.
You're at the Yarras. Mm-hmm. I know you start on the Cricket Etc. podcast, always been asked by Pete how you went at the weekend. So if you'll indulge us, how did you go at the weekend and how's the season gone?
Yeah, and of course, I hate it. No one ever wants to be asked how well they've done at the weekend because of the frequency with which you haven't done well. But
well, it's actually a test. Do you put forward the team score first or your own?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Pete's a very probing interviewer, so there's nothing I can hide from him. But we had a good win at the weekend, and I think we're third on the ladder. We'll probably get into finals, and we've got one round of the home and away season to go. It's been a very enjoyable season. I think for Victorians, after 6 months of lockdown, getting back to doing the things that we enjoy doing was disproportionately satisfying, and to find that they were just as enjoyable as they were before COVID was salutary. I am the COVID safety officer at the Yarras.
Do you have a vest?
Yeah.
I have a flip phone, which prevents me doing any of the QR codes, and every now and again I just say to the boys, getting a little bit close together, boys. Just stand back a bit. I was like, my job is done here.
Yeah. Now, what is the role of the COVID officer? Are you sanitising hands, balls? What's the situation?
I'm not quite sure.
Not sure. Yeah.
Even the umpires do most of the sanitising.
Okay.
Periodically, I think it's just to remind people that I've got my eye on them.
And how you hit? You've avoided the question. How are you hitting them?
I'm hitting them all right, actually. I've had a bit of an interrupted season because I haven't been able to get to training very much, and because of domestic responsibilities. And I had always associated practice with the maintenance of a minimum level of mediocrity. Obviously, if I don't practice, I won't be any good. But I've actually found that it makes no difference whatsoever. I'm just the same cricketer as I was when I practiced twice a week.
Yeah.
So you're kind of like Cameron Green, who's come out this week and said, I've already hit thousands of balls as a junior. I just need to get myself fresh.
Yeah. Well, not quite like Cameron Green, but you can do a bit on muscle memory, and actually it kind of keeps you a bit fresher. And one of the enjoyable things about this summer is that I'm playing with a bunch of guys who I played with in a premiership team about 4 or 5 years ago. There's about half of us who've carried over from that team, and there is actually an unusual bond between us because we all had this experience together. So that's added a kind of a level of affection and spontaneity to our cricket this summer.
Should we say on the theme of club cricket, and we notice through our direct messages on the internet, just see a lot of posting online, especially in WA cricket for some reason. Not sure what's going on over there, but there's been a lot of like behavioural stuff which has sort of filtered in. I think it's been around for as long as club cricket has existed, or something as long as I've been playing, but it just seems to be stemming maybe from the top level down, maybe. I don't know, just see a lot of things.
Something in Victoria over the weekend.
Something in Victoria on the weekend, but umpires being pushed. It's grim gear.
Some grim stuff.
It's grim gear. Are you seeing this sort of thing as well?
I wrote about it a couple of weeks ago
right.
in the WA Premier Cricket that they've had, I think, almost 50 reports or cautions this summer.
What's going on?
And some of them are quite serious, and obviously the usual systems of deterrence aren't working because plenty of people are getting suspended, but it's not really making any difference. And I think some umpires are being challenged. Some umpires don't quite know how to handle poor behaviour on the field, so they're turning a blind eye to it, which of course has the effect of encouraging it. I think some of that filters down from the top level, but I think a lot of it has got to come down to club culture.
Yeah.
It's how we relate to our teammates and the regard that they hold us in that really influences our behaviour, rather than what Steve Smith or Marnus Labuschagne is doing.
Sure. It's interesting because I remember Richard Cheekwee at the time anyway, when we were speaking to him, maybe on air, maybe off air, but he's on the judiciary for the Sydney Cricket Association, and he was saying that during the Ashes, the increase of instances of reporting and people being, have to front the judiciary goes way up through the roof when there's an Ashes series. There's something about, so in that instance, there seems to be a direct correlation between the behaviour of international players, and then players going out and aping it, what they see on the field as well, which is quite disconcerting. But perhaps you're right. It probably does stem from club culture.
I think one of the disturbing things that I've seen over the last few years is how widespread it is. It's not confined to a particular group of angry cricketers. There's plenty of young cricketers who are brought up to sledge and to show their on-field aggression, and it's kind of unpoliced by older players. Older players are not setting the example that you'd expect of them. But some of the incidences that I've heard of this summer have been quite disturbing. There was an umpire I spoke to a couple of weeks ago. He'd had a game in which there were 11 reports.
Right.
That's 11 reports. Yeah. That's almost inconceivable in the shabby standard of park cricket that we play.
Yeah.
Do you think, our observation is that, at least with the culture we grow up in, that there is a view, whether it's stated or otherwise, that being tough or aggressive or unpleasant to the opposition is a precondition or a signal of success or will help you be successful. It's especially covering other countries now. It doesn't seem to be the case in any other country. Do you observe that in what you see in Australian cricket? Is it particular to Australian cricket?
Yeah, and I also see this idea that if you're not furious about getting out, then you have insufficient passion for the game.
I've seen that. I've seen that argued.
Yes, indeed.
They just want it more, don't they?
Yeah,
they do want it more. Actually, I got a bad decision at the weekend, and I just walked off. Oh. Obviously, I don't want it enough.
Exactly.
You walked up to smash someone's car, though. Didn't you? Break a window.
Yeah.
Do you reckon with the Australian perception, do we ask more of our Australian players? Because I'm thinking even in the last couple of years, Joss Butler saying to Vernon Philander to fuck off or whatever he said, Kohli getting bowled, not walking. I feel like there are other flashpoints in international cricket. The consistency of them, however, may be slightly higher in Australian games, but maybe as a public we demand more of our players. We want them to be the best players we've ever seen in our life. We want them to be great blokes, humanitarians. We want them to babysit. We want them to be funny. So is there something about, it does happen with other countries, but we expect more from Australians?
It does. This is the only country in the world that has made it into a kind of a philosophy.
Yeah, true, true.
It's part of our battle plan to be meaner and nastier and cheaper than the opposition. We're perversely proud of it. We don't regard it as sort of a naturally occurring phenomenon of red-blooded cricketers. We actually give considerable thought to that approach on the field and have made it part of a strategy. Yeah,
strategize it. Yeah, that's right. We don't we? Yeah. It's good though, it works.
Yeah, it works. So that's the main thing. The tougher you are, just be hard and tough in everything you do. Yeah. Seems to work. Well, there was a symbolic defeat of Australia at the Gabba, Gideon, and it's at the hands of India. And it's part of why we want to get you in, because we've noticed on your excellent podcast you've interviewed Ramachandra Guha, you've interviewed Simon Kadich about the IPL and how that works. And, where we have for the last couple of months really tried to dive into cricket in India in recognition, as we say, kind of, I guess in a ostentatious way, the Asian century. How do you feel Australia is adjusting or learning, just speak on behalf of the nation, if you will, learning about the new reality of the power of the Asian century?
Well, I mean, we talked about this for a long time. I think we probably started talking about it around about 1987 when the first World Cup was held in the subcontinent, and then again in 1996. But that was Asia and the subcontinent as a collective. This is the Indian century that we're talking about now. Pakistan and Bangladesh and Sri Lanka are almost by the way. India is the global hegemon, has been financially for quite a long time, and now is on field as well. It was inevitable that those two forces would coincide. Perhaps they've taken their time in doing so, but we've well and truly arrived.
Do you think that the fear, so scared of India now, like the fear is that India have like got their act together, sort of inverted commas, as opposed to, I compare this Indian team heading towards what the Australian team achieved for maybe 12, 15 years in the 90s and early parts of 2000. Whereas that appears now, the evidence is that was a golden generation of players where the depth was, but the fear is with India, and I keep using fear because I'm scared of everything and fear governs all, is that, no, there are heaps of people in India. I checked, there's lots.
I don't even know.
Lots live there. And so they've kind of got their act together. You know, is that the kind of fear, do you think?
It's certainly a more geographically diverse game than it used to be in India. That's what Ram was talking about a few weeks ago, about how a game that had principally been confined to the major metropolitan areas of India has genuinely spread all over the country and is now drawing on a huge and enthusiastic talent base. And from a financial point of view, in a country that's as ethnically and culturally and religiously and linguistically diverse as India, cricket has awesome cut through from a commercial point of view. If you want to access a market in the middle class for consumer durables or leisure products, the way that you do it is through cricket. Nothing has anything like the same cultural weight as the game in India.
One thing that Ramachandra Guha said, what do you call him? Ram.
Yeah,
I don't know I don't know him, so I don't know how to nickname him. I know he's a polarizing guy, judging by a lot of the comments I made underneath. But one thing he said, and I can't remember the question you asked him, but it was about trying to put into perspective the sort of authoritarian control that people sense the BCCI is, using with cricket at the moment. And he said, well, you need to understand this from a historical perspective, and that England essentially did the same thing. Australia, when it had its time, did the same thing, and India's doing no different. I mean, do you subscribe to that theory?
Because it's a form of soft power politics.
Yeah, and that, once you do get control of cricket, well, every country that has beforehand has run it exactly how they want to.
Pretty powerful symbolism, wasn't it, during the Test match in Ahmedabad, where they named the stadium Narendra Modi Stadium, and one end's for Adani and the other end's for Reliance. Yeah. It's a bit hard to miss the message, isn't it? I think, though, it is certainly true that politics and cricket in India have always interpenetrated, that there has been a political dimension to all the BCCI's activities. I think in this particular generation and under this particular government, the alignment of cricket and politics has reached an unprecedented pass, when the son of the Home Minister, Jay Shah, is the secretary of the BCCI, and Arun Singh Dhamal, who's the brother of Anurag Thakur, a BJP heavy hitter from Himachal Pradesh, is the treasurer. So the BJP in the last 7 years has been systematically subverting basically all the powerful institutions in India, and the BCCI is one of them. And it has, as I said, extraordinary cultural weight and heft.
So heaps of things you said there that I don't really know. I don't know what that means, but that's all right. That's for us to learn. I felt like a bit of a flashpoint in the, or a bit of a lightning rod for the wresting of control over cricket and what cricket is, came in the conversation about pitches between England and India, and a sort of mediate over Twitter, a great place to mediate these things. That's and I know you don't have an account, or you claim not to have a burner account, but
I don't even know how to do that.
Sure,
on your flip phone.
Yeah. But there seemed to be a conversation about what a good pitch was, and
sure.
what a good pitch was pretty much dependent upon where you're from, and
sure.
what's proper cricket and what's not. Is the behaviour of the ball off a wicket? Well, it's dependent upon what you grew up with.
We have had these conversations before, though. They are not unique to this particular generation or to this particular series. It's almost it's a hardy perennial, isn't it? In some respects, I think that England could regard it as a bit of a tribute that India roll out pitches like these for the last three Test matches.
Compliment.
Yeah. And the other thing is that they don't have to. They don't have to anymore. Their fast bowling ranks are so deep and so strong that they can win under basically any conditions. I would not be surprised if they got the better of England this summer.
Yeah, I suppose when you look at the English spinners, though, they're like, ours are a bit better. Akshar Patel, who's he? We'll never see him again.
Yeah.
27 wickets at 10.
Yeah.
Are we ever going to see him again? Do you reckon?
It's amazing, wasn't he? He was like he was absolutely the perfect bowler for those conditions, wasn't he?
Tall, get it into the wicket.
And even bowling with the pink ball, wasn't it?
Somehow better.
Somehow better, yeah.
The ball got faster off the wicket.
Yeah.
It was, what did you make of the pitches or the cricket? You know, when you watched particularly the second test, but then I suppose the third test with the pink ball, did you feel like you were watching? I mean, you've watched so much cricket in so many different places. Did it feel like you were watching something that was a bit perverted from what you understand cricket to be, or how did it make you feel?
I love watching cricket like this, quite frankly, and I love watching India play cricket like this. You know, my first introduction to the Indian cricket team was in 77-8, and they had a battery of absolutely magnificent world-class spinners. And for a kid in the 1970s in Australia who'd been brought up to think that cricket was about knocking other blokes' heads off, to see Beatty and Chandra, Venkat and Prasanna in Australia in 77-8 was an absolute revelation. In some respects, I identify India so much with spinners still that I'm delighted when I see a new generation of them. Wasn't it phenomenal that I think Jadeja is one of the first players I'd pick in any Indian team, but he wasn't available and they had an almost perfect substitute for him. He just walked straight in. I love watching Ashwin. I think he's a very substantial cricketer now. He's got tremendous presence on the cricket field. He backs out of no contest. He'll bowl absolutely anywhere. I loved him in Australia this summer. I loved him when I first saw him in Australia. So this is a really compelling Indian team to watch. If they were playing sort of unattractive cricket that didn't appeal to me, perhaps I'd feel different about the Indian cricket hegemon. But I actually really love watching this team.
Are they on the verge of a sort of dominance that we've only seen from a few teams historically, in your view?
Well, it'd be nice. It'd be a nice change. We're actually due for a dynasty, aren't we? It's been a long time since we've had one. I feared that we'd maybe seen the last dynasty when as Australia's kind of star faded in the towards the end of the last decade. International competition has been very, very even for a long time. You've got the sense at times that anyone could beat anybody else on any particular day, and that home ground conditions are kind of transcendently influential. But if India can become a great team, then the more power to them. There's something about seeing a great team in your era that's compelling and forces other countries to measure up.
It's really funny with Australia because I feel like Australia were very close to being a great team, but they never tipped over.
This current team.
This current team. The bowling attack has felt like, well, this is a generational bowling attack. Wonderful, balanced guys like Pattinson can't even make the side, etc. This kind of gear line just seems to accompany the pace attack and what they bring perfectly. But the batting, then Marnus comes along and it's like they're really close. Now they've got a 3 and 4, and then Warner's form dips away. Then they're trying to figure it, and then Matthew Wade's back on the side. They haven't got that other opener. Bukovsky's in now. Khawaja's had to go at the top. Marcus Harris, they haven't quite tipped it over. And then the number 6 batting position has never been quite locked down. But then India's just come in and won series because the last away series they played was against New Zealand and they got pumped. But now it's like there seems to have usurped Australia for the potential to be this amazing, great team, right?
Well, perhaps it is a weight of numbers argument. In Australia's case, of course, we have 6 state sides, which we extend to 8 BBL franchises, and from that we try to pick 3 international sides. And we have a lot of players of around about the same capacity and ability in international cricket. We have a concentration of stars. I think we've got the 2nd and 3rd ranked Test batsmen in the world. We've got the 1st and 4th ranked Test bowler in the world. But we only rank 3rd in Test cricket, 4th in ODIs, 2nd in T20s, but the T20 rankings are terribly volatile and some potentially misleading.
Yeah.
What does that tell us about our cricket? We've got some great world-class players, but we're a middle-ranked team. So the standard obviously falls away from that central kind of constellation. Perhaps we're trying to do too much with too little. Meanwhile, India picks 8 IPL franchises from 30 first-class sides. There are a hell of a lot of good players in India working in a very, very Darwinian cricket system where you have to absolutely clamber your way to the top. I remember my friend Andrew Walton, I don't know whether you guys know Andrew.
Yeah.
We talked to
We
Andrew
do.
last week,
Great-
and he's
great
been on the
bloke.
show twice.
Well,
He's a My
perhaps
Cricket
he
guy.
told you about his impressions of going to the coach at the Karnataka Cricket Academy, and talking to generations of sort of the young cricketers in his group, sort of from 16 to 20, and asking them, what their record was like at junior level. How many hundreds have you made? Oh, I've only made about 80 hundreds.
Yeah.
And, there are guys knocking around in grade cricket. I know you guys are great about, reinforcing the stereotype of grade cricket being the strongest standard of cricket anywhere in the world below first class level. But there are blokes knocking around in grade cricket who've, never made a first grade 100.
That's right.
Yeah.
Playing
And
first grade.
Yeah, playing first grade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only had about 80 as well, 80 hundreds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did ya?
So,
Yeah.
quite weak.
Yeah.
Quite weak. That's why I never made it.
Do you anticipate that any Australian opportunity to beat India over there next year will require a lot of lateral thinking about the sorts of players you take over there? Do you think it'll have to be a sort of an Asia-specific side? Does Maxwell come into contention? I know this is a very Fox Sports kind of question, but...
Well, look, we did do a good job, didn't we, in 2017? We prepared seriously. We were determined to make a mark. We paid India their due. That Pune test is one of the best test matches I've ever been to because they were mentally so strong. They reconciled themselves to the fact that they'd be beaten on the outside of the bat. They had to protect their stumps. That the wicket-to-wicket ball was the one that was really threatening them. I've never seen Australian batsmen beaten so often, but somehow it didn't discompose them. And they won the test match in conditions that an Indian team otherwise would have thrived in. They gradually got overtaken in the course of that series by some smart picking from India, and just the general attrition over the course of a series. But Australia could feel very proud of what they achieved in 2017, and if they do as well next year, then they'll also have a lot to take away. But they're going to have to take it with a degree of seriousness that India now involves.
I'll ask you about Rohit Sharma. Because I wonder what his legacy in the game will be. I imagine automatically he'd be one of the greatest ever short form players. Wonderful record in short form. In Test cricket, he averages, 82, 85, 80 something at home, 25 away. I mean, what's that? That's unbelievable.
That's like a few Australians.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
But not that disparity. I mean,
what's Warner average away and what's Warner average at
Yeah,
home?
sure, sure.
We're not unfamiliar with that concept of the lion at home and the lamb away.
Yeah, I suppose so.
So Sharma's basically Warner. Yeah.
Not as good, but
Move along. I suppose it is related because they're talking about the way Australia interacts with India and its place in world cricket in relation to India now and adjusting to that. But there is a remainder of the cricket world as well that Australia doesn't seem to be serving as well or with as much attention. And I know you've written about this, in particular about Australia's position as a global citizen in cricket and it not being regarded very highly around the cricket world at the moment. I mean, I noticed Nick Hockley came out overnight and said, we'd like to reschedule the South Africa series as soon as possible, providing it's safe to do so. And it sounds like South Africa was seriously aggrieved about it to the point where, there's going to be some official movements, to that point. What is that casting of Australia as a poor global cricketing citizen fair and what can it do to fix it, if so?
Yeah, totally. I argued it a few weeks ago. I think that we've been a declining global citizen in cricket probably since we made a run to get John Howard as president back in 2010. I think when we didn't get it over the line, we got our noses out of joint. We kind of went, if that's the way you want it, that's the way it'll be. We'll just turn up. We'll play our Ashes series. We'll play our Border Gavaskar Trophy and the rest of it. Well, you can take your chances. Then we rode on the coattails of India and England in the Big Three shakedown in 2014, which I think we have every reason to be absolutely ashamed of. And ever since then, we've kind of been a bit apathetic about ICC. It's pretty easy to talk to an administrator about the ICC and you'll get the roll of the eyes and the kind of the indifference to the fact that we're actually meant to be a member of it and a leading member of it, and we're a foundational member of it. But we pay it lip service. We're interested in what the ICC can do for us rather than vice versa.
When you talk about that, the question that comes into my head is if that's Australia's position in terms of world cricket, and that's such an important player in world cricket, and historically so, how is cricket going? I mean, where do you think it's going? I know that's a broad question, but is cricket in a good state of health from what you see? You obviously have your tentacles in of what's going on at the ICC in India, etc. Where's cricket?
It's hard to generalise, actually. It's hard to generalise after a season that's been so unusual. There's been a lot of things that I get to the end of this season, I'm grateful that we got a cricket season, frankly, when, even 2 weeks before the first test, it was by no means clear that we'd get the full complement of test matches and we'd get most of the BBL. It's amazing that CA has been able to pull this summer off, considering how capriciously state governments have exercised border controls and how the risk of a mistake is evident in what's happened in the PSL, what happened with England's tour of South Africa. We were microbes away from a calamity, and we've got to the end, and we've actually done pretty well. And maybe we're at risk of taking it for granted, but it wasn't. None of it came easy. So it's hard to say whether this is a true reflection of what Australian cricket looks like. But I think that those things that I said before about the national team are true. We are marking time. We have marked time since 2018. We've been on one test tour since 2018 too, to England in 2019. That's not Australia pulling its weight as a global citizen. I find it amazing that local fans are as tolerant as they are. I think we should be asking serious questions about Cricket Australia's MO. How do we have a stand-in chief executive after 9 months? 9 months after the last one got the boot. There's a flag of truce being flown between CA and the state associations rather than peace, but I think there's unfinished business there. Australia's just, I find it weird that Australia's playing so little. How can we be not having a test match until late November, early December? How is that right? How do we work that? The women's cricket system, to me, seems that the women don't seem to be playing enough, or not as much as they should be, considering the professionalisation of their game. We've got a World Cup coming up, but and we managed to maintain the women's BBL and the WNCL this summer, but women seem to practice an awful lot and play not very much. So I think there are all sorts of reasons to express misgivings about where we're going in Australia. But I wouldn't want to be too condemnatory considering the unusual nature of this season. I'd like to wait another year before I came to any conclusions.
You look at the sacrifices that the West Indies made, for instance, in the UK last summer. They made a 50% pay cut just to even play the games. And then you look at that England tour of South Africa, and I think there was an outbreak when they were on the tour, right? There was that what the fear was, and then England got out of there real quick, probably because they had 9 tests against India coming up, right? And I wonder if Cricket South Africa sort of had that experience, and then they were like, okay, that was a big tour, we've lost a lot of money. Then Australia, they would have set up all these parameters so that the tour happened, and then Australia didn't even bother going over there. So I wonder if it's sort of compounded by England leaving as well. Yeah.
And the funny thing is that I think we needed this tour as much as they needed it. The rift in the loot at the end of the Indian tour of Australia, the sort of the foie d'oeil between Langer and the players. It actually needed the team to get back together and to get playing cricket again. Now we've got sort of 9 months of thinking about how people are getting on.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Yeah.
It is weird. It was weird for us. Okay, Gideon, we've taken up a lot of your time. Can you tell us what's on the horizon for you? How does one consume more Haigh other than to follow you as a player on My Cricket?
It's got a finals game coming up, it sounds like.
That's right, yeah.
Well, Cricket Etc. will teeter on, perpetually on the brink of chaos. But
I can't believe Cricket Etc. permitted you to come onto this rival cast as well.
You just don't ask.
Yeah. It's a great cast.
Cross promotion
indeed.
opportunity. You got a much bigger audience than we have.
Yeah, no, I didn't get the invite back, but it's all good. It always happens.
What else have we got? I've got a book coming out in the middle of the year called The Brilliant Boy, H.V. Evatt and the Great Australian Descent. It's a book about the law of torts in Australia.
Well,
I know.
Cricket is a game of laws, not rules.
It is,
so,
yeah,
right.
quite so. Evatt was a cricket fan. Evatt was a great Balmain cricket supporter.
Okay.
But the cricket content is minimal. It's a piece of sort of long form narrative history. I've got a book about. I've got a commissioned history of the of Parliament House coming out at the end of the year, and I've got a little bit of cricket true crime coming your way. About to get to work on that.
You can't talk too much about
Can't
that,
talk too
understand,
much
but
about
cricket
that,
true crime.
But it's good fun. A little bit of an Ashes inflection. Little bit of frontier justice. So look out for that. I'll be self-publishing that because I actually self-published a couple of books last year.
Yeah. Took a bigger margin.
Well, actually, yeah. I was just experimenting with the format, and
You find you didn't didn't get paid 10 cents a book or something.
well, that's it. You know,
I know that experience.
it is sort of. I'm not wanting to be too fine a point on it, but publishing in Australia is a form of sort of plantation slavery, and so it was quite salutary to see how much more fun it was to control every aspect of the process. And to maintain total quality control, and actually to deal directly with readers. When you're soliciting orders from people on email, you really do get to know them and where you're being read and why people are reading you and how they're reading you. I actually found it a really interesting experience, so I'm prepared to do it again.
Is the true crime with the Ashes tinge to it, is that actually about when Matthew Hayden smashed the door at the SCG? Is it an investigation into that after an Ashes dismissal?
No,
That'd be good though.
It's more esoteric than that.
Okay.
But it's kind of fascinating. It's
All right,
It'd be really
it's one of these
surprising.
classic cricket stories
Don't
that you
steal my
come
idea.
across and you go, why didn't I know about that already?
Right.
I really should have.
Yeah.
Why is that fallen down the cracks? So so looking forward to that in the second half of the year.
And you would have a clue about the book industry. What book number is this? 35, 40?
41. I think.
41. Well, that's 50.
Yeah.
Round that up.
You round it up.
Exactly. Yeah. There you go.
About 50. Got about 50.
Play the hits. Yeah. You do your frontier justice stuff. I'll do the roundup stuff. Okay. Gideon Haigh, huge privilege to have you on. Thank you for your wisdom and your insights. I think there's going to be a lot of people very interested in your views, particularly around how Australians understand India as well. So thanks for coming into TJC Towers.
I'll be calling this in next summer. You realise that, don't you?
Of course.
Having seen how close you are to Como Park, there's no escaping.
I was actually going to give you a call to come have a net, but then I popped my left hamstring, then my lower back. So my body's falling apart.
And you had anything else on.
Yeah, that's right. Cheers, kids.
Okay, see ya.